Welcome to this week's mental health series hosted by Empowerment Squared and myself, Alex Baddick. I'm joined by Anne Marie Annie for this week's series on returning to school. So my name's Alex, like I said, and I am the Hamilton Education Law Coordinator. I'm an education lawyer, and I'm joined by Anne Marie Annie, who is, by trade, a teacher as well, right?
Right, that's
Wonderful.
right.
So yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking about education, returning to school this week. But before that, I wanted to remind our audience of the Smile Cookie campaign that Empowerment Squared is doing this year. So Smile Cookie Week will be September 16th to the 22nd in partnership with Tim Hortons, Binbrook, to raise money for the Empowerment Squared programming. 100% of the sales of the Smile Cookie Drive will go to Empowerment Squared. So place your orders on the website before September 15th, and cookies are $1 each, and check out the Empowerment Squared website for more details. So we're going to jump into some questions today, and we're really just going to explore some of the anxieties that families might be having when it comes to returning to school. So hopefully we can touch on some of those kind of hard questions that people are grappling with, and hopefully through a conversation over the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll have some solid answers for you before going into some of the audience questions. So before we go into too many details with questions, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, Annie?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. So as Alex mentioned, my name is Anne Marie Annie, and I am a teacher by trade. I've been teaching for, I have about over 15 years of classroom experience. I've had the opportunities of teaching both locally in Hamilton, in Quebec, and also overseas in the Middle East. So I've had a chance to explore different curriculums and meet lots of different students literally around the world. Once I came back to Hamilton to settle, I decided that I wanted to try something new. So I delved into community work. So now my current role is I'm one of the managers of educational programming at Empowerment Squared. So that role comprises many things: creating and developing curriculum, liaising with the community, liaising with families, mentors, which are our volunteers, our students, and all in as a way to help empower them to achieve their best goals.
So this year has already been pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
The school year is about to likely be just as intense. Returning to school has come with a lot of new challenges that many students and families haven't seen before. So when we think about the challenges of the school year ahead, we think about the starting of school, even something as basic as just returning to school. What are some of the changes that people are experiencing now than they would have had in previous years? What's different about this year?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because there will be many differences this year because of COVID. So for instance, this year students are going to have the option of learning remotely, so learning from home as they did prior when COVID first hit, or they have the opportunity of learning in class, in person. So once they're learning in class, the school boards have decided to have a staggered entry because they want to really try and ensure that both our teacher friends and that our kids are all safe when they're returning back to school. Kids and also the school staff are going to be asked to wear masks all day. Their kids are going to be having smaller class sizes. They're still, I know the unions and the school board are still working on what that number is actually going to be. But those kids are going to work together and travel together with that one teacher throughout the day. So for their nutrition breaks, for their all of their activities, they're staying together in hopes to be to provide some more safety measures for these kids. In addition to that, they're going to have regular hygiene checks, and we're just hoping for the best. It's going to be a new year. It's a new experience for everyone. We just have to take it one step at a time. With the remote student learning, they will be learning. So the guidelines are that they want to have at least 300 minutes online learning, and that could be a combination of synchronous activities, meaning that they are working with teachers in real time, or asynchronous activities, meaning that they're not working with teachers online. So that could look like maybe they're doing independent work, or they're watching videos, or any other type of skills to consolidate what it is that they're doing at this time.
Mhm.
So lots of changes, lots of things to look forward to. However, the boards and there are so many other community groups that are there to help support families every step of the way.
Yeah. There's a lot of planning and theory about what's going to happen, what should be happening. So things are really static. Things are changing almost by the day. At this point, is there a projected day for the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board to begin school? Some have already changed their start in other school boards, but what's the sense that we have for the start date here?
Yeah, well, as of this afternoon, when I checked the board website, September 8th will be the start date for the public school board, and September 9th will be the start date for the Catholic school board.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to different school boards, how do their starts to the school year look? Are they also starting in the same week? Is everyone returning to school in Hamilton in the same week versus other school boards? Are they staggered? What's it looking like? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, each board will be rolling out their own safety protocols, which would work out best for their particular boards. But I'm pretty sure the start dates will be the same, just as we started in the past, where schools traditionally start on the day after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm. So parents are going to have to grapple with a lot of different things this year. Prior years, you were never really considering how it is that your child will be learning. You send them to school, and the teachers are in the best position to kind of dictate how the children will learn. This year, parents are actually making that important decision on their own. Are they going to be learning in person or online? So how does a parent come up with the answer to that for their specific child?
Yeah, and you're right. It's a big decision. It's a big decision, especially for students who are going to school for the first time. Like, I'm thinking of our little kindergarten friends. I think it's really a matter of a case-by-case situation where parents need to, if your children are old enough to have a conversation with them to talk about these changes. Talk about it openly at the dinner table or when you're going on car rides or if you're playing sports or activities. And you talk to them about these changes in the school year and how are they feeling about it. They may have a preference. Maybe some students had a taste for work while they were working online and they enjoyed it because of less distractions or what have you. Or some students may be missing some of that social aspect of meeting their friends in person. So I would say it's all about, I think, not only for the parents and the kids, but also our teacher friends, it's all about what makes you feel most comfortable. And knowing that whatever decision that you make, it's not set in stone. You can always revisit that decision at the end of the term, continue to have conversations with your teachers, continue to observe, as a parent, continue to observe your children, their behavior, to see how they're doing and check in with them, and then make decisions according to how they're feeling and doing.
Yeah, like I said, I think in the past, it's usually left to the school to decide how best the children will be learning. So this important decision is now in the parents' hands. Now, are there any legitimate concerns with maybe the quality or the substance of what would be learned in person versus online? Or should people be grappling with that concern?
Theoretically, no, because they're all students are going to be learning from the curriculum, the Ontario curriculum. Teachers have been working really hard over the last few months we all had the practice as well when school shut down in March or so to get a little bit of a taste of what this online remote learning could look like. So since then, there's been a lot more experience with the teachers, also with administration. Kids are becoming more adept as well when it comes to using the technology. So parents should be rest assured that whichever decision they make, their children will be getting the best possible curriculum content. And the beautiful thing is, because of this whole rollout being so new to everyone, it's okay to feel curious and talk to those teachers and have conversations with them. I wouldn't say like on a daily basis. You need time to see how things are how they're going to flow, but have a continual conversation with your kids begin to have the mindset of more so that you are your collaborator with your child's teacher, as opposed to us versus them.
For sure. And I think that's a great point, especially understanding that things are not set in stone. This is an experience where you collaborate, you find out what's working and what's not working. So families that do make a decision whether or not it's online or in person that their child will be going to school, they would communicate this through the school, ideally how?
Yeah. So schools, once again, are trying to take as many precautions as possible to maintain the safety not only of the students but also of the staff as well. So they're really trying to limit as many unknown bodies into the school as possible. So communicating by phone or by email would be a great way to communicate with your child's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For many families who are new to the country, trying to enter Ontario's education system may have been difficult enough a year ago when things were not in the state they are now. You can imagine that it might be a lot more difficult or onerous to figure out what it is, the exact steps to take, who to speak to when they're trying to get their children enrolled in school this year. Mm-hmm. How do families kind of navigate that stress if they're new to this system in Ontario? Who do they go to? How do they really navigate this kind of minefield of issues?
Yeah, it's true. It's an excellent question, and we, as an organization at Empowerment Squared, we've noticed that. So, I mean, the positive thing is that the early days of COVID gave us all a little bit of an insight as to what to expect, and we've all learned a lot. Like, for instance, with our programming, we were met once upon a time in person, but because of safety reasons, we shifted to go online. So for families who have been connected to other community groups, I'm sure their community groups have continued to stay connected with them. So for instance, we have as an organization, so we continuously call the families to see, to inform them as to the new changes in the governmental decisions when it comes to, for instance, the CERB or with education going back to school, just to check in with them to see how they're doing. So that's one way that families can receive information as to what's going on. Another way that families can receive information that's going on is if they can refer to reliable sources. So for instance, if your children are in school, check the school board website for questions. The nice thing about the school board website is that it can be translated into many different languages. Some of our families are illiterate, not only in their first language, but also in English. So what you could do is you could call the school board, and somebody could help to direct you to an interpreter to help you figure things out. So communicating with your school board, using reliable sources, communicating with community groups, or maybe even spiritual centers. All of those places can help families to make informed decisions.
Right. I think one of the important things about having children, I don't have children, but if I did, I think an important thing to consider would be the impact this might have on some groups of students over others. So we know that students with a lot more privilege might have a lot less impact from COVID and all these the ramifications of it on the school system. But for some students, their readiness, their preparedness for school, for a new grade, and like going to high school, even just the final years of high school before post-secondary education, if that's the route, it might have a real impact on them. So my question is, how do parents kind of prepare for that, and how do they kind of mitigate the effects that might cause for their children?
Okay. So first of all, I think we all need to remember that most children are super resilient, super duper resilient. And I'm going to take a back step as well. I personally don't have children either, but I've worked with over thousands of children. So I see this, I see it continually. So I know there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of angst, but be rest assured that whichever decision you decide to make, your children will be okay. Mm-hmm. just continually check in with them, asking them questions about how they're doing, observe their behaviors, their nonverbal cues. Are they withdrawing from the family? Are they staying up in their room without talking to people? Are they not eating? Are they not sleeping? And all of these types of things. I think that's one thing that all families or all guardians could really strive to do, is be more cognizant of their kids, and then make decisions according to what you see. Yes, in terms of the disparity of the haves and the have-nots, that's another issue. I know the school board did try to do a really good job of giving kids or families who didn't have the technology at the beginning of the term, when this whole started, some technology. But then I know a lot of the kids were receiving iPads, for instance. Mm-hmm. But we know that iPads have limited capabilities, right? So the pros were the kids became more adept with that bit of technology that they did receive, but there's still some lots of things that they need to learn because of the lack of the resources that they had, or they had Wi-Fi issues and headphone issues, or all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll just see how it'll go.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the word collaboration between families and schools before. What's the role of students in kind of collaborating with their parents, the schools as well, to make sure that they are ready, that they are able to make it through many of the challenges that are currently going on in the education system?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, with younger students, so elementary students, usually they're super open to sharing. Sometimes they're oversharers, in fact. But when it comes to your secondary students tend to clam up a little bit, and they're not as open to sharing. So let's start with the secondary students first. Parents, if they can, first of all, check in visually when your kids are online. See if you can be near them and you see what's on their screens. So check and see what they're working on. Check and see the teachers that they're working with, maybe over or listening to some of their conversations, so you can have follow-up conversations with them. Talk to them about their deadlines. Talk to them about their interests and what they want to do when they leave school, so that you can have conversations with their guidance counselors, their teachers, etc., so that you can all make informed decisions together. At the end of the day, we want to remember that as a parent or as a guardian, you are the one that's usually making the major decisions. It's okay to take into account what your children are feeling or what their thoughts are, but make an informed decision what you think would be best for your child. And I think the big thing to remember as well with some families is that the decisions can change. Mm-hmm. They can change over time. So keep checking in and see what needs to be adjusted, and then you go from there.
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful kind of summary of things that we need to consider going into this school year. Welcome back to our mental health series, where we're talking about returning to school. So we're going to jump into the question and answer period, where we're going to take questions from our audience. So before we jump in, I just want to remind our viewers, check out Empowerment Squared's website for the Smile Cookie campaign. Make sure you make your purchase. Michelle is next, and she's asking, I've decided to keep my children, elementary age, at home. For the remainder of the year, what are some of the strategies that I can use to help reestablish routine in preparation for returning to the classroom in January? Mm-hmm. Super good question.
Yeah, it is, especially for the little guys. They need routine. So one thing for sure, kids are really used to, well, nowadays, those who've been to school before, they're used to timers. So using your device, your iPads, your cell phones. If the kid, you have established a task with your kids, set the timer and let them work on the task until the timer goes off, and then they usually naturally transition. Give them cues, let them know what's coming up next, and that's one really great tip.
I'm going to branch off on that question and say, what about for high school students? How do they navigate that?
That's I know high school students are a little bit different for sure. However, they're not impossible to tackle. So everyone has a carrot, right? Everyone has a motivator that really drives them. So once you know what drives your high school student, so setting attainable goals with them. So letting them know that, okay, you need to work on your English assignment for the next 45 minutes. After that 45 minutes, if you're working remotely, I'm thinking about, then you can perhaps go for a walk outside or go play basketball, or maybe you like to bake with mom or dad, so you can go do some baking or something like that. So that's one way that you could motivate your high school students.
Yeah. Lisa writes, if I've decided to have my child participate in a model of learning either remote or in person, can I change my mind at a later date?
Yes, you can. So this whole option of having these two prongs or two choices it's new for everyone. It's new for everyone, Lisa. So just keep that in mind. So because it's new for everyone, they know, well, the school boards know, the government knows that you need time to try things out before you can make adjustments. So there will be some designated times of when you can make the adjustments. I'm not going to say it's going to be in the first week or the first 2 weeks or something like that once the children return to school, but voice your concerns with your child's teacher and let them know what you're thinking, and they will be your guide as to when you can make those decisions.
So we're going to take our last question from Miriam, and she's a teacher and says, I am a teacher and I am concerned about how to engage my students with all of the restrictions. Do you have any suggestions as a teacher yourself?
Yeah, Miriam. I found what's worked effectively for me, Miriam, is just continuing the conversation with your students and giving them some ownership in their decisions, as opposed to always letting the teacher be the guide for the decisions. Once the students feel that they are part of the decision-making process, it helps them to feel more empowered and it helps them to feel more motivated, engaged. At the end of the day, kids know that they go to school and they do have a curriculum standard that they need to follow, but there's some room for creativity as well.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of these questions really touched on people's anxieties with a loss of routine, a loss of a sense of control. I think what's important to acknowledge is we're all losing a sense of routine and a sense of control at this time, but it's feeling empowered by knowing that there's a lot of information around for us to rely on, to touch on, to use as supports to really guide us through a lot of the challenges that we are going through collectively. Definitely. So I think with that, if you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, one thing I would love to remind families is that your kids are super resilient. So try not to worry too much. And we know that after some time of experiencing this new routine, they'll be all right.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions from parents, and I know the last one was from a teacher asking for a bit of advice. But what could you imagine are some of the anxieties that teachers may be experiencing right now as a teacher yourself?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because I think often people forget that teachers are people too. They're moms, dads, aunts, uncles. They have vulnerable people living at home, like their fathers, whatever. So I think we just all need to, before you engage in a difficult conversation, just take a breath and then approach the situation with curiosity as opposed to judgment. We're all in this new situation together. Teachers are there to support. They're there to support. They're there to help in any way, but they can only help when they know what the issues are. So the other thing I would suggest for teachers as well is or for parents or guardians who are working with teachers, is if you can communicate with your child's teacher, but also maybe not do it too frequently. Number one, we want to make sure that kids get a chance to learn and to grow over a period of time. And number two, the more time that you are sending communication to your child's teacher, that's less time that your child's teacher will have to work on curriculum content and other exciting things for your children. So at the end of the day, teachers are there to support and take care of you.
So we're going to end today's mental health series show today with a reminder to check out Empowerment Squared's cookie campaign. It's from September 16th to the 22nd, and you can make your orders until September 15th. You can call us if you have any questions, but remember, tune into our series next week where we're going to touch on finances. So thank you again. My name is Alex Baddick. This was Anne Marie Annie. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.